Well, on Saturday morning, many of us woke up to more sad news after a week of really bad news. And the United Nations has lowered its flags after the passing of its former Secretary General Kofi Annan on Saturday morning. Annan visited the country last month as part of Nelson Mandela's Centenary celebrations. The Nelson Mandela Foundation has also joined the world in sending deepest condolences to the family. He was regarded as a friend by the foundation, and he enjoyed a close relationship with Madiba over many years. And to talk to us more about the work and, of course, the legacy of Kofi Annan, we're joined on the line right here in studio, by Verne Harris, who's Director of Archive and Dialogue at the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Verne, thank you so much for coming through.
Great pleasure, Sakina.
An absolutely sad moment, as I said, on the back of a week where we really lost some incredible people.
Yes, three big losses, Masabukwe and Aretha Franklin and then Kofi Annan.
And it came as a huge surprise because he was just here. I mean, last month he was here as part of the elders for the Nelson Mandela Centenary celebrations, and one was not the wiser that there was anything wrong with him. I remember that march, and he looked fine.
Yeah, he did look fine and was in good form, so for all of us it was a shock.
And let's talk about him now and, you know, his relationship with Madiba, which was, of course, one of great mutual respect. But talk to us about that. You know, how did they first meet and how did that particular relationship blossom?
Well, Mam Graça Machel had a friendship with him going back many years. So in a way, Madiba inherited that friendship when he and Mam Graça got together. But of course, as leader of the country, Madiba had a lot to do with him as Secretary General. And then, of course, they did a number of projects we could talk about after Madiba stepped down as president.
And then, of course, in the foreword, he wrote, Mandela, the authorized portrait. Kofi Annan there wrote, throughout the years of our friendship, Nelson Mandela has been a source of support and inspiration to me, both personally and as Secretary General of the United Nations. What do you think this friendship meant to both of them?
Well, certainly from Madiba's side, built on mutual respect, of course, for the work that Kofi Annan was doing as a global leader, as Secretary General. But then when he stepped down, his continuing work through his own foundation, he joined the Elders, which Madiba was a co-founder of. And then, of course, the work he did around HIV/AIDS.
And the two leaders, of course, you know, they also worked together on the Burundi peace accord, which was, you know, very important work, especially speaking to continental peace on the continent.
Absolutely. I think for both of them, Burundi loomed large because of the bad mistakes that had been made earlier. In that region, Rwanda and so on, and so both were very committed to finding a sustainable solution in Burundi. Of course, you could argue that peace hasn't really come to the country, but I think great advances were made while both Madiba was leading the peace process on the ground and being overseen by Kofi Annan.
And it was, of course, you know, that work around Burundi that led to the initiative of establishing the Elders. And, you know, now you've got both of them gone. How is this going to impact on the Elders?
Well, I can't speak for the Elders, but we work closely with a number of them, and I'm sure it will have a huge impact. He was chair of that initiative, and his vast experience of peacemaking will be missed. But there's a really great group of elders working together, so I'm sure the work will continue.
And he was, of course, also the chairperson of the elders. So, as you say, they will have to now go on and figure that out. But his legacy, what would you say about the legacy that Kofi Annan leaves behind?
That one's tough to pull into a sentence, I think. I think he sets a very high bar for excellence in African leadership. But globally, I think, if you look at where the UN was when he took over and where he left it, mistakes were made under his leadership, but the UN was fundamentally reformed in terms of how it worked as a bureaucracy. And I think it became far more activist under his leadership.
And as both Kofi Annan and Madiba would say, they were not saints. They were but humans who made mistakes. And talking about mistakes and perhaps, you know, looking at blind spots, were there any that you can readily think of as far as Kofi Annan is concerned?
Well, there were a couple of scandals within the UN under his leadership, and you know, he, like Madiba, was very quick to acknowledge shortcoming, but no major disasters that I would name.
Well, Verne Harris, thanks so much for coming through and talking to us about Kofi Annan. And of course, he has passed away as well, and talking about his legacy and what this would mean going forward, especially for the elders, that initiative that came about as a result of him and Madiba, firstly collaborating around what needs to happen to bring peace to Burundi, and then establishing this body that the world respects. And we'll wait to see how they move forward from here on in. We're going to go to a break.